After all the trouble we've been through, you want to marry me?
Well, I'm sure he won't get into trouble on a weekly basis.
She was his closest confidant, the woman who defended him when the world turned away. But at 82, Stefanie Powers has finally done the unthinkable. She's broken her decades-long silence about Robert Wagner, and what she just revealed about that night on Catalina Island has left Hollywood speechless. For more than 40 years, Stefanie kept the secret through the investigations, the accusations, the lawsuits. He stood by the man America once called the last true gentleman. She called him her kindred spirit, the one person who understood her better than anyone else. But something changed. In an exclusive interview that's sending shockwaves through the entertainment industry, Stefanie Powers spoke about details allegedly hidden in Natalie Wood's autopsy report. She hinted at a vast fortune that Robert Wagner came to control after the tragedy, and she described two sides of the man she thought she knew. One charming, one terrifying. What made her finally speak? And when her words went public, how did Wagner respond? This is the story Hollywood tried to bury. The night the cameras stopped rolling, the moment the perfect couple became the perfect lie. Thanksgiving night, 1981. A thick fog rolled across the waters off Catalina Island, California. Through the cold mist, a luxury yacht called Splendor sat anchored near Avalon Harbor. On board, Robert Wagner, television's golden boy from Heart to Heart, his wife Natalie Wood, the luminous star of West Side Story, and Christopher Walken, her co-star in the film Brainstorm. Just hours later, that yacht would become the scene of one of Hollywood's most haunting mysteries. At dawn, on November 29th, a harbor patrol boat found Natalie Wood's body floating less than a kilometer from shore. She was wearing a red nightgown, a life jacket, put on backward, socks still on her feet, her hair tangled with seaweed, her eyes open, staring at nothing. The autopsy would note bruises on her wrists, knees, and arms, but the official report dismissed them as injuries from the rocks after death. What the public never saw was a handwritten note from coroner Thomas Noguchi, buried deep in the file. It read, "These injuries are not consistent with a natural fall." That line never made it into the official report. According to Robert Wagner, the night before had been pleasant. He, Natalie, and Christopher Walken had dinner at Doug's Harbor Reef, an upscale restaurant on the island. Wagner described it as a relaxed evening among friends. But the restaurant staff remembered it differently. One waiter later told the Los Angeles Times that Wagner slammed his glass on the table so hard it made everyone in the dining room turn. Natalie, the waiter said, just lowered her head in silence. A nearby diner overheard Walken tell Natalie she was born to act and shouldn't stop. Wagner's response was cold and cutting. She should be home with her husband and kids. Around 10 that night, the three returned to the yacht. The mood had shifted. Dennis Deveren, boat's captain, later told CBS that he heard bottles breaking, shouting, then total silence. Wagner reported Natalie missing at 1:30 in the morning. But witnesses at the harbor said they heard a woman screaming nearly 2 hours earlier. That discrepancy would haunt the investigation for decades. When police arrived, they ruled it an accidental drowning. Natalie had been drinking. She must have slipped while trying to secure the dinghy. Case closed. But even within the investigation team, several details didn't add up. There were no tears in her life jacket. Even though she supposedly struggled in the water, no fingernail residue was tested, despite scratches on her wrists. The dinghy she allegedly used to leave the yacht was found tied securely in place. No signs it had been untied at all. And most troubling, portions of the crime scene photographs went missing. They wouldn't resurface until 20. The questions piled up. People magazine asked why someone terrified of water would go out alone on a cold night. Why was her life jacket on backward? And why did Wagner wait so long to call for help? Journalist Dominic Dunn of Vanity Fair wrote something that would echo for years. "I've seen people in pain, but I've never seen anyone suffer so carefully as Robert Wagner." The case seemed destined to fade into Hollywood legend, until 2011, when Captain Davern changed his story. He admitted that Wagner had lost his temper that night, that Wagner had stopped anyone from turning on the lights, search for Natalie, that he'd been ordered to stay silent. The case was reopened. By 2018, Robert Wagner was officially named a person of interest. The revised report stated the cause of death was undetermined. And then, after all these years, Stefanie Powers, the woman who had shared the screen with Wagner, who had called him her closest friend, decided it was time to speak. Stefanie Powers and Robert Wagner met on the set of Heart to Heart in 1979. They weren't just co-stars, they became television's most in-sync duo, finishing each other's sentences, moving through scenes like they'd been partners for lifetime. Stefanie once called Wagner her kindred spirit, the man who understood her timing and emotions better than anyone. After Natalie's death, Wagner leaned heavily on that friendship. Stefanie became his confidant, his safe place in a world that had turned suspicious and cold. For decades, she defended him. When reporters asked about that night, she'd deflect. When tabloids speculated, she'd shut them down. She referred to Wagner only as an old friend, someone the world had misunderstood. Her silence was seen as loyalty, until it wasn't. In a recent interview with Variety, Stefanie revealed something no one expected. She'd read the autopsy file. Not the public version, the one released in 1981, but an internal file she accessed in 2012. And parts of it, she said, were redacted, pages removed, details erased. Stefanie described finding notes about circular bruises around Natalie's wrists, deep abrasions near her ribs, injuries that suggested a struggle, but those details had vanished from the version released to the public. Someone, she implied, didn't want the world to know Natalie had fought back. They just wanted people to believe she fell. That statement sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Journalists who had covered the case for years, including Vanity Fair's Maureen Orth, confirmed that Stefanie's account matched internal files they'd once seen, files that had since been quietly buried. But Stefanie didn't stop there. She also recalled that after the tragedy, Wagner was no longer the man she knew. During the final season of Heart to Heart, he became withdrawn, distracted. Sometimes he'd stop, mid-scene, and stare into space, as if seeing something no one else could see. She remembered one moment in particular. They were filming in Hawaii. Between takes, Wagner sat alone in his trailer, staring at the ocean. Stefanie walked in and asked if he was okay. He looked at her and said, "Sometimes I can't sleep at night because I still hear the sound of water." That sentence, remembered years later, sent chills through everyone who heard it. Stefanie didn't accuse Wagner directly. She didn't have to. Her words reopened a door Hollywood had tried to keep sealed. If even the woman who shared years of trust and friendship with Robert Wagner now insists that details were deliberately concealed, then perhaps the central question has never really been answered. How did Natalie Wood die? And more importantly, who decided what the world was allowed to know? To understand what happened on that yacht, you have to understand who Robert Wagner really was. Not the image, not the Hollywood gentleman, but the man beneath the charm. In the mid-1950s, Wagner was being groomed as the next Clark Gable. 20th Century Fox marketed him as elegant, masculine, irresistible. He was a fixture at the Beverly Hills Hotel, photographed with Joan Collins one week, Debbie Reynolds the next, Elizabeth Taylor the week after that. But the relationship that truly set Hollywood ablaze was his affair with Barbara Stanwyck, the legendary star of Double Indemnity, who was 23 years his senior. They met while filming Titanic in 1953. Barbara was already an icon. Wagner was just a young actor trying to prove himself, but something about her mesmerized him. Newspapers couldn't stop speculating. The Los Angeles Examiner published a photo of them leaving the set together at midnight with a caption that read, "Like a love story, the veteran star finds her second spring in the arms of a man 20 years younger." Years later, journalist Rex Reed revealed that Barbara once said Wagner made her feel young again, that when she was with him she forgot how old she was. That relationship cast a long shadow when Wagner met Natalie Wood. She was 18, America's princess, fresh off the success of Rebel Without a Cause. They met at a Christmas party in 1956. A few months later, Wagner proposed. Their wedding at the Beverly Hills Hotel was broadcast live on ABC, a rarity at the Life magazine put them on the cover with the headline, "Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner, America's golden couple." But behind the smiles, cracks began to show. Natalie was at the peak of her career. Wagner was struggling to find his footing. A close friend of Natalie's later told People magazine that she'd confided, "Robert loves me, but he can't stand it when I'm more successful than he is." On set, Natalie grew close to her co-stars. Meanwhile, rumors spread that Wagner would show up unannounced whenever his wife worked with a male director or actor. Reporters from The Hollywood Reporter noted that he had a habit of watching from the shadows, arms crossed, jaw tight. In 1961, rumors surfaced of an affair between Wagner and Swedish model Anita Ekberg. Photos of them together in Palm Springs appeared in Confidential magazine with the caption, "The Nordic Rose and the Married Man." A year later, Natalie filed for divorce. She wrote 2 words on the record: irreconcilable differences. No accusations, no drama, but everyone understood the real reason. After their split, Wagner married actress Marion Marshall. They had a daughter, Katie, but 6 years later that marriage ended too. Then in 1972, at a party at Frank Sinatra's Malibu estate, Wagner and Natalie met again. They danced to The Way You Look Tonight. It seemed like all past mistakes were forgiven. Their remarriage shocked the media. But behind the fairy tale reunion were troubling signs. Natalie confided to her close friend Mart Crowley that she and Robert were trying to mend things through marriage counseling. Notes from Dr. Eugene Landy, who treated them in Beverly Hills, later leaked. They showed that Natalie had expressed fear about her husband's sudden bursts of anger. That story remained buried until Stefanie Powers brought it up in her recent interview. She recalled that during filming, Wagner carried an unpredictable energy, sometimes tender, sometimes transforming into someone completely different within seconds. Stefanie stated bluntly, "He was incredibly charming, but there was also a darkness in him that only the women who loved him could truly understand." Vanity Fair once wrote a line that now sounds prophetic. Robert Wagner walks among beautiful women as if through mirrors, and in each mirror, he sees a reflection of himself, dazzling, but distorted. When the tragedy on Catalina Island erupted, everything hidden in Wagner's past relationships suddenly resurfaced, and Hollywood began to ask, was Natalie Wood's death merely an accident, or the tragic end of a love filled with too many secrets? 40 years have passed, but Natalie Wood's death remains an unhealed wound. Lana Wood, Natalie's younger sister, never accepted the official story. She'd acted alongside Natalie, shared her secrets, knew the darker corners of her marriage to Robert Wagner. In interviews on Dateline NBC, Inside Edition and Good Morning America, Lana asked the same question over and over: why is everyone silent when the truth still lies at the bottom of the sea? In 2011, Lana and yacht captain Dennis Devern released a new statement. Devern claimed he heard something heavy fall that night. A woman's scream, then eerie silence. He said Robert Wagner was enraged, throwing things, and stopped anyone from turning on the lights to search for Natalie. The revelation hit Hollywood like a bomb. The Los Angeles Times ran the headline, "Lana Wood reopens the Catalina nightmare." Soon after, Lana hired a legal team and filed a civil lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court, demanding the entire case be reopened and her sister's body re-examined. Within days, major outlets published photos of the yacht Splendor with the haunting caption, "Was this really the site of an accident, or the scene of a hidden truth?" In November 2011, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department officially announced the reopening of the investigation. The new report revealed details never disclosed before: circular bruises on Natalie's body consistent with fist marks, not a fall, and the most puzzling detail of all, her life jacket had been put on backward, something nearly impossible for a conscious person to do. In 2013, CBS aired a special episode titled Death in Dark Water. It revealed forensic injuries showing abrasions around Natalie's wrists, suggesting someone may have tried to hold her back. In an interview with The Guardian, Lana Wood spoke in a trembling voice, "I'm not seeking revenge. I just want to know what really happened to my sister. I want that man to answer." The entire nation shivered, because everyone knew exactly whom she meant. By 2018, the Los Angeles police made headlines again. They officially listed Robert Wagner as a person of interest, someone potentially directly involved in the case. No charges were filed, but that phrase alone was enough to shatter Wagner's career once more. Vanity Fair journalist Maureen Orth wrote, "Robert Wagner spent years playing the role of the grieving widower, but the ghost of Catalina has never let him go." Meanwhile, Wagner chose silence. He gave no interview, offered no responses, let his lawyer issue a brief statement. There is nothing new to say. That silence only deepened public suspicion. Many recalled that during the filming of Heart to Heart, Stefanie Powers had sensed a profound change in him. In an interview on CBS Sunday